What is up, everyone? It is Quinn here, back with another video. Yesterday, I went through my biggest winners and losers from round 1 of the NFL draft for fantasy football. We're running that video back, biggest winners and losers from day 2, so rounds 2 and round 3. I'm going to be continuing to put out content, surrounding the draft. Going to be updating my rookie rankings after day 3, so make sure you guys check back in for more fantasy content. But let's honestly just jump right into it. We're going to start off on the positive side, talk about some of the winners, and I'm going to start it off here talking about Devin Achane. He was selected with the 21st pick in the 3rd round, pick 84 overall, and he lands with the Miami Dolphins. Now, I'll be totally honest, originally in round 2, I was pretty disappointed when the Dolphins passed on Zach Charbonnet, who I'll talk about later on in this video. I'm guessing you can figure out what section that's going to be, but I was disappointed. It seemed like they were in range to go out and snag him, but they came out in the 3rd round, made up for it. They drafted Achane, and I feel like if we're looking at this from Achane's perspective, this is probably the best possible landing spot, considering some of the other running back spots had already been filled at that point. We knew coming into the draft that Achane wasn't going to be a guy who's carrying the ball 18 plus times a game. He's not a player who's going to carry a massive workload at, sub 190 pounds, but he lands here with the Dolphins with a very, very wide open running back room. I believe they brought back both Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, but both those guys are on very cheap contracts. It's not like those dudes are going to limit, Achane's usage in this offense. And I think if you're looking at Achane as a guy who's going to be getting 12 to 14 opportunities per game, Mike McDaniel is going to set up this dude for some massive opportunities. He's going to put him in great spots to make explosive plays, to make the most of those, kind of limited opportunities in his workload. And just looking at this offense, I mean, good luck guarding an offense with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Achane. This is going to be a crazy, crazy fast offense. So I really feel like this worked out pretty perfectly here for him. You don't want to see him go to an offense where he may get, 10 opportunities a game, but they're not going to be explosive, a coach that can't scheme him up. I think this is a great fit here with the Dolphins, with Mike McDaniel. And when we're looking at dynasty rookie drafts, I feel like he's probably someone who has to be going early round 2. I think you could even make the argument for late round 1. Haven't, locked in those rankings yet. But with a guy like Charbonnet potentially falling, Will Levis, not going in the 1st round, he could be out of the 1st round of rookie drafts. So I also wouldn't be shocked if Achane is slotting in there as like the 111 or the 112 in your rookie drafts. So Achane, big winner here in day 2. Another winner that we saw here, I think, was Jonathan Mingo. Got picked with the 8th pick in the 2nd round, pick 39 overall, and he lands with the Panthers. So to be totally honest, Mingo wasn't a guy I was super high on heading into the draft. He had pretty underwhelming college production. I mean, especially for a guy who ended up going, early round 2. But this is serious draft capital. This is not, a throwaway pick in round 4, a late round 3 pick. The 208, that is premium draft capital. He's going to be paired with Bryce Young, obviously the 101. And this is going to be an offense that doesn't have a ton of top weapons or really any weapons. Like, we're looking at this wide receiver room. Terrace Marshall really hasn't done a ton. DJ Chark has been solid, but I feel like if Mingo could come in, he could compete with Chark. And then we have Adam Thielen, who's probably going to be working out of the slot. And at this point, kind of a ghost of primetime Adam Thielen. So he's going to come in, have an opportunity to start probably from day 1. And we know he has all the physical tools. 6'1", 226. We're in a 4.46 40, which at that size is crazy. 96th percentile speed score. 91st percentile burst score. So I feel like with this draft capital and this landing spot, I feel like he's probably going to be a guy who's going in round 2 of dynasty rookie drafts, and I feel like that will be warranted here. So definitely a big winner. And then my 3rd and final winner here is going to be Sam Laporta, picked 34 overall to the Detroit Lions. And I feel like in general, this was probably a pretty perfect situation when we're looking at landing spot and capital. He gets the great capital, the tight end 2 off the board. I don't think many people, if any, thought he was going to go ahead of Michael Mayer. And then he's going to the Detroit Lions, which is a team with a wide open tight end room after they moved TJ Hawkinson mid-season last year. And we're looking at Laporta, his production at Iowa, put together back-to-back impressive seasons. Now, if we're just looking at the raw numbers, 53 receptions for 670 yards in 2021, and then 58 for 657 in 2022. Like, just looking at the raw stats, it doesn't seem, all that great, but they're pretty impressive when you have the context that Iowa's passing offense was just pretty brutal in both of those seasons. In 2021, as a tight end, Laporta was their leading receiver by 318 yards. So really, like, no one else in that receiving core did anything. And then he was also their leading receiver this past season in 2022 by 259 yards, and then actually accounted for 32% of the team's total receiving yards, which, is solid at the wide receiver position. Even more impressive coming from a tight end. He's also a guy who's going to be checking a lot of the athleticism boxes, had a 91st percentile 40-yard dash, 85th percentile speed score, 76th percentile burst score. So I feel like, all this stuff put together, he's definitely a guy who could end up going in round 2 of Dynasty rookie drafts, just kind of, filling out a lot of the boxes here, has the capital, solid landing spot, will have an opportunity, also very athletic, and the college production. Like a pretty well-rounded profile here coming away from day 2 of the NFL draft. Now we're going to shift over to some of the bigger losers here, and I feel like we have to start it off here with the duo of Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. We see Charbonnet go with the 21st pick in the second round, obviously to the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm going to start it off just by talking about this from Charbonnet's perspective. So I was actually pretty excited for him heading into day 2 with Bijan Robinson going top 10 and then Gibbs going at 12 overall. I kind of thought this would be a nice opportunity for these running backs to get pushed up. Charbonnet probably going somewhere in round 2. And then hopefully we'd see some of these other running backs come off the board in round 3. So I was feeling pretty good. And then we basically end up getting probably like the worst case scenario, one of the worst possible landing spots here for Charbonnet. He goes to the Seahawks where now he's going to be playing, I guess, alongside Kenneth Walker, behind Kenneth Walker, however you want to look at it. From Charbonnet's perspective, I feel like this is pretty, key that he's going to be used as the receiving back. We didn't really see the Seahawks want to use Kenneth Walker in that role. He didn't really do it in college. That kind of transferred over into the NFL here. Charbonnet is a guy who caught passes in college, so I feel like, that seems pretty set that he's going to have some role as a pass catcher. And then, I think he's also going to be filtering in on the ground. For Charbonnet here, it's just tough to see him kind of pulling away with a massive workload, barring an injury to Kenneth Walker, because we know how solid he is on the ground as a pure runner. Now, looking at it from the Kenneth Walker side, actually one more thing for Charbonnet. Walker is only 1 year ahead of him when it comes to rookie contracts, and they were both second round picks. So if these dudes are on the roster together for the next 3 seasons, we're looking at a committee potentially 50-50, however you want to split it, for Charbonnet up until that 4th year. So definitely a big, big hit for him, even though he did get that second round capital, which is what we want. The landing spot is just very tough. Now shifting over to Kenneth Walker's dynasty value here, I mean, this is brutal for his dynasty value and his redraft value at this point. The concern with Kenneth Walker, at least for me, was always just the upside. Could he get that receiving role? We weren't really sure, if that was going to happen heading into the 2023 season, but we knew he was going to be a high-volume rusher. At least we thought he was going to be a high-volume rusher. Now with the addition of Charbonnet, I don't think he's going to be a guy who's getting 18 plus carries a game. He might be somewhere in that 14 to 16, 17 range. And, you could maybe make an argument and have some optimism if we were thinking the Seahawks were going to be crazy run heavy. Maybe it was the Falcons offense last year. You get 2 top running backs. You're just going to run the ball a million times. But when you have an offense, they just re-signed Geno Smith. Your wide receivers are DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. You drafted JSN. This doesn't look to me like an offense that's going to be so run heavy. They've got a ton of weapons here. They're probably going to be pretty balanced. So overall, just a massive hit to both of these guys. The Seahawks have a ton of weapons, but I mean, there's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think this is a huge hit in terms of Charbonnet's rookie draft value. And then same thing for Kenneth Walker overall in Dynasty. Now my second loser is going to be Josh Downs, who ends up going in the 3rd round, pick 79 overall to the Colts. And Josh Downs was someone that I was very high on heading into the draft, but I was also kind of expecting him to be locked into round 2. I could see him going early round 2, mid round 2, late round 2, but I did think he would go somewhere in the 2nd round. So falling to mid round 3 and then also landing in just a not so great spot. Like, I wouldn't say the Colts are a terrible landing spot, but you have a quarterback situation where Anthony Richardson probably needs a year. And even if Anthony Richardson is playing, like, I don't think he's going to be a fantasy option who's great for his weapons. I think he's going to be fantastic if he can put it all together, for his individual production. But in terms of a guy, supporting these other weapons, doesn't seem great. You've got an offense with Michael Pittman, who can also command a ton of volume. So you've got a Gardner Minshew likely led Colts team. So just overall not a great landing spot. Like I mentioned, the capital's not great. Heading into the draft, I had him as, I believe, my wide receiver 5 and an early second round rookie pick. I haven't really gone through and, split these wide receivers up. He could still end up being my wide receiver 5, but I definitely think he takes a hit in the overall rankings. And so someone who I do think is going to be moving down in my ranks and in terms of rookie value in those drafts. And then my third and final loser, I feel like this one was pretty clear. Darnell Washington ends up going late round 3, pick 93 to the Steelers. And heading into day 1, round 1, Washington was like a betting coin flip to go in the first round. We end up finding out that he starts to slip due to injury concerns. And even when Washington was going to be a late round 1, early round 2 guy, he was never going to be a lock for solid receiving production. But when you looked at his size, his athleticism, there was definitely at least some upside there. And you could make the excuse that he wasn't super active as a pass catcher because Georgia had Brock Bowers, which, could be a fair argument. But now here, late round 3, the capital's not there. And then the landing spot, the optimism is pretty much gone here with Darnell Washington. Freiermuth is going to be the Steelers' pass-catching tight end. Washington is a fantastic pass blocker, so I feel like he's pretty much just going to be used as an extra blocker at this point. So a guy who definitely takes a huge hit, could have been considered as like a mid to late second-round rookie pick. Now, you may be taking a flyer on him in the 4th, 5th round. Also, I just wanted to give a shout out to both Rachaad White and Dameon Pierce, who were guys who could have had some extra competition brought in for them. So far, those dudes have avoided, legit draft capital guys being brought into their backfields. So I think they're also winners here. I do think the Texans, if they didn't trade back or trade back up, they could have considered a guy like Bijan Robinson, but I think also very solid for Rachaad White here because the Buccaneers did have a few opportunities, round 2, round 3. They could have gone after a running back, so those guys are kind of slipping by at this point. So that is going to wrap it up for some of my day 2 biggest winners and losers. Let me know what you guys think. How'd you feel about the landing spots? After day 1, round 1, I was feeling pretty good about the landing spots. Round 2, round 3, I think there were some solid ones, some tough ones, some ones in the middle, definitely more neutral. But thank you all for stopping by. That's it, and I will see you all in the next one.